Julian Assange is finally home. But what's the scam with these chipmunks bemoaning Assange after 14 years in captivity? This mob, the Nightly, ran with the headline, "The Weasel has landed." This mob should change its name to the Graveyardly because it's good night for the Nightly. Kerry Stokes' attempt to get with the time, an online newspaper, as the market value of his Seven West media stock languishes below $300 million on the ASX. Why? Because they produce rubbish. Times are changing. Same deal, of course, for Rupert's Sky News Australia, which is also belly aching about Assange. As usual, every one of its smurfs, from the Credlins to the Kennys to Shari, predictably on the same page on Assange, doing their good guy, bad guy, cops and robbers routine. Julian, bad. US war crimes, good. Did you know that besides the US murdering civilians in Assange's initial release, which got him in trouble, but also Assange was persecuted for revealing that the US was holding prisoners as young as 13 years of age at its Guantanamo Bay torture centre? Did you know that Assange exposed US soldiers raping children, its military contractors running an underage sex ring, or rape ring rather, these so-called journalists whinging, "He's not a real journalist"? Seriously, who cares if you think he's a journalist or not? Who cares if you think he's a journalist because you did a cadetship in an Australian newsroom and learnt T-line shorthand? You probably didn't even learn that these days. This is the world's #1 political prisoner, and even the US itself admits that his actions did not hurt anybody in the security establishment. And yes, he's just a man like any other, with good and bad. And no, he was not convicted of sexual assault, Shari. He was set up. Assange dwarfs the media establishment. This is beyond journalism. He is a symbol for the age. Despite whether you like the cut of his jib, his persecution as the world's #1 political prisoner is the story. And I, for one, am very happy for him, his friends, and his family. John, his father, Gabriel, his brother, his wife Stella, the children, all of those who have suffered unconscionably for years. 5 years in Belmarsh maximum security prison without proper legal process. Tortured for exposing war crimes, for revolutionising the media. He is a giant figure in history, and you lot are numbnuts. As Julian himself said, what are the differences between Mark Zuckerberg and me? I give private information on corporations to you for free, and I'm a villain. Zuckerberg gives your private information to corporations for money, and he is man of the year. Yes, it's a global losing of the plot. And what's the scam with Labor MP Fatima Payman crossing the floor this week to vote with the dreaded Greens? The first to cross the floor in many years, in 30 years. And Albo not expelling her from the party. Good on you, Albo. Kathy Wilcox nailed it with this Schrodinger's cat cartoon. Would it be a good look for Albo to chuck Fatima out of the party for voting her conscience on our friend Benjamin Netanyahu's slaughter of 15,000 innocent children? It's a rock and a hard place there. Party solidarity. It's a real problem. Meanwhile, Mark DiStefano at the AFR, good on him, exposed the secretive hard-right mob Advance Australia, that they're chasing millions in Zionist donations to run a campaign to demonise the evil Greens. This as the Greens voted against Labor's housing policy, joined with the Libs. As you may have seen from our last video on money laundering, there are a handful of easy fixes for this housing crisis. We've been through them many times. Negative gearing, CGT relief, the Airbnb racket, fixes to the AML, foreign capital inflows, the money laundering. Sadly, there is not the political will to get these things done. And so the crisis is likely to get worse before it gets better. And while we're at it, surely it is a good idea if our leaders were not so entranced by this defunct creed of neoliberalism, surely it would be a good idea to set up a housing corporation to compete against the developers or compete with the developers, get some houses built and get a banking license to Australia Post to compete against the banking cartel. It makes sense. They can borrow at the sovereign rate or close enough, slightly above the sovereign rate. Take a few points to keep the thing operating profitably. But no, we don't see ideas like this. We see the Treasurer this week give the green light to ANZ's $5 billion takeover of Suncorp, the Queensland Bank. It just makes the banking cartel even less competitive. Fewer players means less competition. It's very basic logic. Yet, Jim Chalmers, you have been scammed. Scam of the week goes to Treasurer Jim Chalmers, scammed by the banking cartel. Thank you for your support. Please like, share and comment in the space below.